going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to the Gen Y Investor. If you enjoy the video, please remember to like and subscribe, even drop a comment below if you feel like it. So after many cryptocurrency videos on my behalf and lots of buying and selling and talking about that space, we're finally making a video on stocks. A stock that I've just bought. Funnily enough, it's actually Coinbase, which is a large cryptocurrency exchange stock. So we're still sort of, talking about that area. But yeah, I mean, technically it is a stock that I've just bought into. So yeah, we're going to talk a lot about what I like and dislike about Coinbase as a stock. It's only recently had its IPO, initial public offering, which was about a month ago, and it's, been up and down quite a bit. So we're going to talk about that. So I'm looking forward to discussing all of this with you guys. My portfolio still heavily weighs on stocks. It's still probably 85% stocks. But yeah, it's just cryptocurrencies have been the hot thing lately, so that's why I've been making lots of videos on them. But let's head over to the slides and we'll have a look at some of this gear. Okay, just a little bit of info about Coinbase before we jump into the pros and cons of potentially buying the stock. For those that don't know, it's the largest US cryptocurrency exchange, and it lists about 50 cryptocurrencies for trading, obviously led by Bitcoin and Ethereum. So you can download the phone app, which is pretty user-friendly, or you can do it on a desktop site as well. Coinbase charges fees of several percentage points to deposit funds and trade, which is one of the main ways the company makes money. Roughly 90% of the company's revenue as of 2020 came from transaction fees from trading and services like storage. I read recently that it's more like 80%, but between 80 and 90% is probably a pretty accurate representation. So just so you know, a lot of the company's revenue is coming strictly from the transaction fees they charge when you buy some Bitcoin or buy some Ethereum or whatnot. Yeah, but some things I like about Coinbase as such is that it got pretty close to achieving its earnings targets. So its earnings came out about a week ago, and it had some pretty speculative earnings targets. But yeah, I mean, revenue was pretty much there, a little bit under. Earnings per share, a little bit under, 3.05, expected 3.09, and revenue, they made 1.8 billion, which is phenomenal. They've recently turned profitable as well, which is very handy. So yeah, pretty positive earnings for the most part. But because it was a little bit under, we saw quite a downtrend, as you'll see in the next point. So yeah, quite a downtrend after its IPO and some poor earnings, as well as a few other little things that weren't going cryptocurrency's way. I guess that Coinbase is inevitably going to follow the cryptocurrency market. Like I said in my previous video, we've got Elon Musk coming out and criticizing Bitcoin and pulling that out of Tesla's plans. So yeah, that caused a bit of a crash. China reiterating its stance on cryptocurrencies caused more of a crash. So yeah, as a result, Coinbase also got hit a little bit. I think on its IPO day, it was operating around $400 a share, and now it's something like, $247 a share. So down quite a bit from IPO. But I also like that Binance, it's probably its major competition. Now, funnily enough, I actually buy a lot of my crypto on Binance, and I've only got a little bit of Cardano on Coinbase. But yeah, Binance is under investigation by both Justice Department and the Internal Revenue Service. So now I've bought into Coinbase, I'll probably start purchasing my cryptos on Coinbase. But I also like that the response from cryptocurrencies was pretty positive for the most part. I mean, I know that we saw a 20% dip over a week or two ago, but yeah, the response has been pretty positive, and it seems like Coinbase as a stock now has started pulling out of its downtrend now that cryptos are back on track a bit. So it was about 3 or 4 nights ago that I bought into Coinbase. For some reason, I woke up at 3 a.m. and decided to check it. I didn't want to stay up till 12 a.m. Because living in Australia, Nasdaq's obviously open from about 12:30 to 6:30, 12:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. for us. So that's when you sort of need to monitor it a bit. Didn't want to stay up to 12:30, but bought in at about 3:30, and then yeah, that entire day's trading, it was up around about 8%, but about 3 or 4%. It was up for me as I bought in midday. So yeah, not a bad result. Probably should have bought in at our opening, but yeah, I mean, a few percent we can't really complain too much about, especially when I'm about 5% up in a few days. We're pretty happy to see that. So here's just a couple of graphs. You'll notice that there's the trend line right here that I've drawn on my app, and I just bought in when it pulled out quite nicely. I didn't buy in then. I actually bought in about here, and then it's gone, and so it's still up, sitting around $247 per share, which is pretty high. But yeah, good entry price, I think. Seems to have pulled out of its downtrend. That would have been all from the Tesla and China and whatnot stuff happening. So pulling out, up onwards and upwards, hopefully. And yeah, pretty positive revenue and earnings for 2020. They've turned profitable, which is always good to see. Yeah, so things are looking pretty good for the most part at the moment. Definitely still the largest cryptocurrency exchange, and hopefully it can maintain its stance with that and keep on bullying the market a little bit. So there is a bit that I don't actually like about Coinbase, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. So obviously the competition. So Coinbase said, despite our strong Q1 results, the rapid expansion of crypto economy also creates challenges for Coinbase. Competition is increasing as new market entrants join the crypto economy every month. So I mean, Coinbase is a pretty secure platform, but there's a lot of these things like PancakeSwap and Uniswap that aren't as secure, but they list a lot more coins, even the coins that haven't been listed yet on the exchange. So risky, but I mean, there's different, people sometimes like buying into that because even though it's risky, the reward can be really big. Like you could buy into Shibcoin when it hadn't been listed yet, and I think that went up 1,000% before it was listed. So a lot of different competitors in the space. Directly comparing Coinbase to anything, the closest comparison would be Binance. But I still think Coinbase seems to have a bit more of a positive rep and whatnot than Binance. Yeah, and also the valuation. So currently the stock's trading at 174 times earnings, 44 times sales, 19 times cash flow, and 36 times book value. That was from Morningstar. So yeah, it's not a value stock. Let me put it that way. It's definitely more of a growth stock. So if you're buying into this, you really need to be sure that you're expecting some very solid growth for it to match up to its very high share price. Yeah, so it was valued at 100 billion according to Coinbase, and then I just found a Market Watch place that did the intrinsic value calculations, and they only found it at 18.9 billion. So again, pretty speculative as far as the stock goes, but there's plenty of those sort of things around there. Tesla, extremely speculative and a growth stock. Even Amazon, a lot of stocks out there are very heavily growth stocks at the moment. So I mean, don't be thrown off by that. You're just obviously not going to get much dividends from it, and you're expecting some growth from the business, which it's looking that way. Like I said, with the earnings, decent earnings, turning profitable, and really things are just getting started. So I mean, if you are bullish on cryptocurrency markets, then this, you could almost see this as somewhat of an ETF that you could buy into if you want to buy the entire market, rather than buying one cryptocurrency, which is sort of what I've done. Like I felt like I missed the boat a little bit with this mini crash that we had with all the cryptos, and then I sort of saw that I've been following Coinbase for a while since IPO, and I sort of saw that it's still a bit beaten down even after all the cryptos had started recovering. So I said, oh well, I'll just buy into Coinbase then. So pretty happy. And then PE ratio also 161.04. Not a lot that we can compare it to as far as cryptocurrency exchange stocks, but Tesla's still sitting at around 650. So I know it's really high. We usually like to see a PE ratio especially if it's a value stock of around about 10. But growth stock, it's going to have a high PE ratio, so you don't need to be really thrown off by that. I'm not, but it's not ideal in the same sense. So yeah, Coinbase's expected valuation of 100 billion implies that its revenue will be 1.5 times the combined 2020 revenues of the two most established exchanges in the marketplace, the Nasdaq and the Intercontinental Exchange. I thought that was a pretty outrageous stat, to be honest, but you know, I'm as everyone knows, I'm extremely bullish on where I think cryptocurrencies are heading. So I can accept that, but I thought that was a pretty funny little stat, to be honest, because the Nasdaq and the Intercontinental Exchange are absolutely massive and have been for many years. So yeah, we'll see if Coinbase can follow suit. Hopefully it can. And then yeah, finally, I've just shown this from MarketWatch, I think it was, that its valuation. Hopefully we get to it in 2027. So you're not really buying this as a short-term stock. We're holding it. And hopefully it gets to its implied revenue by about 2027. So we definitely need to continuously see some solid growth from it. So I'll stress, if you're not bullish on the cryptocurrency market and the cryptocurrency world on a whole, I wouldn't be buying into Coinbase. And if you're not prepared to potentially suffer some very significant losses in the event of a crash or something like that, then also I wouldn't be buying into Coinbase. But yeah, I mean, do your own research. This is sort of a bit of a brief overview of it all. But I am happy. I know I've just talked about the negatives, but I don't necessarily see a growth stock as being a negative anymore. We did for a long time. Well, you know, my family did for a long time. They're more into sort of the value stocks, the high paying dividends, and that was probably the way that the stock world went over the early 2000s. But yeah, growth stocks really are the thing these days, so don't be thrown off by it. But yeah, check it out yourself if you're interested. There's a lot going on, and who knows where it's heading, but I'm very bullish on it, like I've said a few times. So best of luck, and hopefully you enjoyed some of this content. Thanks, guys.